Hi guys, welcome back to the desktop for another retro RPG, and this week I'd like to present this, the Wheel of Time role-playing game, based on the novels by Robert Jordan, which I don't know a lot about. I have to admit that. I've never read the Wheel of Time novels, and I don't know much more than having a brief look through the Wikipedia article on them, and looking through this book itself. Now, I understand that as a series of books, they are the second most popular fantasy series, just behind Lord of the Rings, which is kind of fantastic. From reading the Wikipedia article, apparently they're set in the past and the future, because as the name says, the time is a wheel. So the past and the future can be alternate depending on where you are around the wheel. So they are sometime in the future coming towards our past. So from, again, the Wikipedia article, I understand that in one of the novels, they visit a museum and there's a Mercedes logo there from a Mercedes-Benz car, showing that that is ancient to them. But these are books which aren't just fantasy, they've got a bit of science fiction, there's parallel dimensions, and a whole load of interesting stuff, which makes for an interesting role-playing game. Now, this is a 2001 release from Wizards of the Coast, so it's D20. It's basically 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons. But it's altered quite a bit, because the Wheel of Time background is quite different to the standard Tolkien-esque fantasy. And there's a bunch of interesting ideas in here. So let's have a look at the back of the book. The wheel turns and new legends are born. As the Third Age unfolds, the tales of many heroes will be woven into the great pattern. While those stories have yet to be written, your part in them is unmistakable. Whether a maiden of the spear or a hunter of the horn, Aes Sedai or Asherman, you are destined to join the struggle between Trollocs, dark friends, and the Forsaken, and countless other evils revealed by the turning of the wheel. From the Arith Ocean to the Ale Wastes, the entire Wheel of Time series is covered in this complete self-contained D20 system role-playing game, approved by Robert Jordan. This single volume contains statistics for all the major classes, a unique system for channeling the One Power, feats, prestige classes, and everything else you'll need to make your visions become reality in Robert Jordan's world of epic fantasy. Take your place in the legends that have yet to be told. By Charles Ryan, Stephen Long, Christian Moore, Owen K.C. Stevens. A web-enhanced product. I haven't checked to see whether the URL is still valid. But, yes, it's the Wheel of Time. This is an unusual one from Wizards of the Coast, because this started off as a Last Unicorn Games book. Last Unicorn Games got the license to Wheel of Time and had begun work on it when they were acquired by Wizards of the Coast. Last Unicorn Games came out with a bunch of Star Trek games, a Dune game. They worked heavily with licenses, and Wheel of Time was their fantasy one, and was in the process of being written by Charles Ryan, amongst others, who I'll come back to in a moment, when they were acquired by Wizards of the Coast, so it became a D20 book. Now, Charles Ryan, as I mentioned there, is also the author of Millennium's End role-playing game, which I mentioned in the past has one of the most interesting rule systems out there, where not only do you choose where to hit, but you use transparent cellophane charts to show bullet scatter. Really interesting, really impractical, but a fascinating idea. And Charles Ryan I really rate up there. He came out with some brilliant ideas, and he's continued to have a massive influence in role-playing. Working for Last Unicorn Games on their Star Trek products, and then carrying on through that to Wizards of the Coast. He's also been involved in the Deadlands series of games, both the D20 ones and the original line, as a graphic designer of all things. But let's open the book. So, we can see the publishing here is absolutely fantastic. We're up to D&D 3rd edition quality desktop publishing. Everything looks very nice. There's lots of lovely artwork. It's very nicely laid out. So we go into eras of and places of play. So it's an entire world, so it's giving you a few ideas. It's laying out role-playing, planned character creation, and then it gives you a few sample characters. Oh, do you want to play an Andorran Child of Light, a Forest Protector, a Hunter for the Horn, a Maiden of the Spear? Now, I love this. This is fantastic, because one of the problems with Dungeons & Dragons is that you have to create your character. They don't tend to provide templates. And I really do like templates these days. As I've got older and my time, because I've got a family, has been reduced, whenever we get introduced to a new game, I don't have time to learn all the ins and outs of the system. So I really like templates in that I can choose something I quite like the sound of, a runaway from the steading, a male channeler. What else we got here? A Shinarian Guardian of the Blight. That sounds interesting. And we've got a little description here to give you an idea what this character is going to be up to. And that's fantastic. I can find something, I can get into it, and I can learn the world as we play, rather than needing to sit down and learn rules, learn quirks of it, and then discover I've made up a character which is an absolute mess and doesn't really work at all. When I was younger, I loved doing that. I had the time to spend ages working with the Shadowrun rules to create myself a superhero, a Batman-type character. I had the time, but nowadays I don't. Pretty much, I want to spend an hour or so quickly going over the rules and then sitting down to play. I don't want to have to spend a couple of weeks preparing to start a game, which may not go beyond a few sessions, depending on how we like it or not. So we've got the abilities, the standard D20 abilities: Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma. So far, so standard. We've got backgrounds. So you get background feats and background skills, home languages, depending on what your character is. So you can see here, if you've chosen the background ale, you get these feats, skills, your home language, bonus languages, what equipment you start with, and you can create your characters based on that. This is a really interesting way of creating a character within the world. And then we've got the races. So we've got the Sea Folk, the Borderlanders, Ebudari, Elania, Midlanders, Tarian, Ogier, yep. Background feats. We're on to the classes, which aren't just the standard fighter, thief, wizard. We've got Al-Gadai Siswai, Almsmen, Initiates. Because magic doesn't work the same way in this. It's channeling the one power. So you ignore the magic out of the player's handbook and just use what's available here. Wanderers, Wilders, and the standard charts of how many spells you can cast per day, or weaves, because apparently in Wheel of Time they're not called magic at all. We're on to the skills, so fairly standard skills. Animal empathy, appraise, balance, working the same way as they do in the 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons, so you get points per level as you go up. Skill points, 4 plus int times 4 at starting, and then higher level, 4 plus int modifier, or if you're a wanderer, 8 plus int modifier to spend on skills. Just all the skills here. Let's flick through these. And then we're on to feats, which were one of the large points of 3rd edition, and a way of customizing your character. Are they ambidextrous? Animal affinity? Armor proficiency? What can they use? Can they cleave? Cleave being a very useful ability where if you kill an opponent, you get to roll and attack another one as your sword cuts through them and cuts into the next enemy. Precise shot, quick draw. Feats really did allow a lot of customization. And although they exist in 5th edition, I really feel like they've been downplayed because you've got the choice of increasing your abilities, which count all the time, or buying a feat, which can only apply sometimes. Then we've got heroic characteristics. So just going through creating your character, their name, their gender, their age, their appearance. Customizing your character. Followers. Different things in adventures, movement. Well, we've got encumbrance, just the standard rules here. Going through what you can do. Equipping a character, so we're onto the equipment section. Will you buy yourself a chicken, or will you buy yourself a sword? Different types of armour. Plate and mail, full brigandine, breastplate, padded armour. Goods and services. Very much standard out of the Player's Handbook and Dungeon Master's Guide, just altered slightly for the world. Initiative. Combat. Injury and death. Let's keep flicking through here. Just all the wrong rules. The one power. So describing how the magic system works. Now I really don't know whether it's more like clerical magic or more like divine magic. Wizardly magic. Casting weaves. Casting time, distractions. And then we're on to the sort of spells themselves. Balefire, Cloud Dancing, Foretell Weather, Harness the Wind, Compulsion. They're basically spells just under a different name. And working slightly differently. Fiery Sword, Fireball. Wand of Fire, Whirlpool, Sever. Just lots of abilities, lots of spells here for your magical classes. And then on to games mastering. So, teaching the game, providing the world. Nice section here, just fleshing out on how you should be running a game. Because this doesn't require the Player's Handbook, it is all in this rulebook. So it's teaching you everything. If you like the Wheel of Time and you bought this book, this might be your first role-playing book. How to build an adventure. Units of measurement. So 10 inches equals 3 hands equals 1 foot. We've got prestige classes. You can become a blade master or a commander. A gleeman. A warder. A wind finder, a wise one. A wolf brother. NPC classes, so commoners. So basically what their stats will be. Well, obviously they're not going to be as dangerous as a fighter or anything. Diplomats, experts, warriors. So town guardsmen and the like. How to run encounters. The different environments and creatures. Then we've got the creatures of the world. The corn. The dragcar. Golam. Now, Wheel of Time, as I said, incorporates different dimensions. So while it's the past and the future, the reason why there are fantastical creatures in this is because they've been brought across from other dimensions, parallel Earths where things didn't develop exactly the same. It mentions in the rules that some of these parallel Earths are completely barren, life just never developed there. But in other ones there are creatures, and one of the kingdoms did make a habit of bringing creatures across. So we've got sort of major characters from the novels here, which may mean something to people who've read the books, but none of these, I have no idea if these are the main characters or whether these are very minor characters. And then we've got a history of the Westlands. Some nice maps. Laying out different countries and cities. The maps are pretty, and I suppose fairly useful for pointing out. I would like if there was some kind of key on them to tell you what's actually where. You know, where's the ruler's castle? Are there taverns? You know, is this a rough dock area, or is it more like a yachting club? Who knows? Tar Valon. We've got White Tower grounds, and we've got some details here, but not a lot else. The City of Tyr. Lovely to have maps, but it would be nice just to have a bit more information. Although, again, if you read the books, perhaps it details all of that for you. Perhaps, as somebody who's read all the novels, I don't need to know where the King's Castle is. It's obviously there. Now we've got other worlds. So as I said, there's ways of travelling to parallel dimensions within the Wheel of Time. Wondrous items. So basically the artifacts. What follows in shadow. So an adventure. Welcome to the Golden Stag Inn. The Hunt. And just an introduction and adventure. I'll skip through that. And an index at the end. From what I understand, the adventure was a pretty good one and led into the campaign. So you played the adventure in the book. If you liked it, you could then go out and buy the campaign, which led on from there, leading your characters through a full campaign in the Wheel of Time world. Which, good writing. Anyway, as I said, I don't know much about the Wheel of Time. That's just a brief look at the book. There's some interesting stuff in there. I really like the fact that it's not Tolkien fantasy. I've seen so many role-playing games which are just elves, dwarves, halflings, and then you try and alter them a bit. So you've got the Warhammer world where halflings are created to resist mutation and chaos, and the older races are slightly corrupt. You've got Dark Sun, where the halflings have become cannibals. So you twist on the same thing, but they're still halflings. This totally gets away from that. It's fantasy, it's just not Tolkien fantasy, it's its own fantasy. Now, if you like the Wheel of Time, you'll probably have heard of this, but with the TV series coming out soon, I believe Amazon has the rights to do a Wheel of Time TV series. Perhaps now's the time to have a look at a book. Anyway, I've whittled on for quite long enough as usual. Please like, subscribe, and comment below, as it does me massive favours with the YouTube algorithm. It really does. But most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.